Hey everyone, how are you? We are live and it's lovely to have you here. And thank you for your time today. Now, before we get going, please drop me a hashtag live or hashtag replay, depending when you're watching, and let me know where you're watching from. So, today we're talking about something most people dread, but is one of the most important parts of any journey, and that is mistakes. Now, like most people, I used to work very hard, and that is mistakes. Let me just turn the volume down on my phone. I never remember this at the very beginning, but um, done it. And I can see Danette is watching. Thank you very much for being here today. Okay, so like most people, I used to work very hard at not making mistakes to avoid them, which meant, of course, I was very reluctant to take risks. But the thing is, mistakes aren't just inevitable, they're essential to growth, to our learning, and to our long term success. And by the end of this training, I'll hope you'll not only feel less afraid of making mistakes, but also see them as a valuable stepping stone on your path to achieving your goals. It really is indicative of our culture and what we've been taught over many years. You know, since starting school, mistakes were not part of the agenda. In fact, mistakes were really bad news. And I don't know about you, but the fear that was associated with getting things wrong and having to take a dreaded report card home to my parents meant I worked very hard to be a straight A student. And of course, this means we have a lot of unlearning to do. So let's start with the big idea. Mistakes aren't failures, they're lessons. When you make a mistake, you gain clarity on what doesn't work, what you can improve, and what you can do differently next time. You know, mistakes really force us to confront challenges head on, stretch outside our comfort zones, and develop resilience. They're part of the process, and they're not any proof of inadequacy. Now, there are a few benefits of making mistakes because the first one is mistakes actually accelerate learning. If you think back about how children learn to walk, they stumble, they fall, they get back up again, and each fall teaches them balance and coordination. The same principles apply to life and business. You know, looking back when I first started creating content, I used to spend hours crafting posts that ironically didn't resonate with my audience, but the amount of time I put into them. But over time, I did learn what worked, and that was speaking authentically and sharing relatable stories. So by making those mistakes, they get you closer, one step closer to mastering whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And as I said, they do build resilience because every time you make a mistake and recover, you're building a stronger mindset. You're also building your confidence, you know, and we need confidence in life. So the thing is, and it doesn't matter whichever way you look at it, resilience isn't built in comfort. It really is built in the challenges we face on a daily basis. Like a lot of people in the beginning, I thought my posts needed to be polished, formal, and polite. And as I said, I spent hours crafting posts filled with industry jargon and overly professional language. And the result was almost zero engagement. And I came to realize my audience wasn't connecting because the content wasn't authentic or relatable. So I shifted my approach and I started sharing personal stories, lessons learned, and behind the scene glimpses of my journey. And I used conversational language. I try to keep it at a grade 3, grade 4 level. So it's not only simple to read, but simple to understand. And I always have open ended questions at the end to try and encourage that little bit of interaction. But none of this I knew at the beginning. It's all been a result of making mistakes, coming back, trying again, making more mistakes. So it's really a rinse and repeat cycle. But the result has been that my engagement skyrocketed and I started building genuine relationships with my audience. Because at the end of the day, people want to connect with you, not a polished facade. So being real, relatable, and human is so important. Mistakes also foster innovation, which we often forget. But some of the greatest breakthroughs in history happened because of mistakes. Post-it notes, for example, penicillin, and even the microwave were all discovered by accident. So in your journey, mistakes can open doors to new approaches or opportunities you hadn't considered. Something goes wrong, and when you look back, you realize this was the turning point in your business because you adapted and changed strategy. Now, the thing is how do we embrace mistakes and use them to our advantage? The first thing we have to do is we have to change our mindset, shift perspective. Instead of thinking, I failed, which is often what I used to think when I made a mistake, the failure, the embarrassment, I had to start thinking about what could I learn from this? And initially, probably about a year ago, so not in the beginning, but it took about a year to get there, I would write down one lesson from every mistake I made. And I know it sounds cliche and a little bit of eye rolling, but actually, it's a little bit like keeping a journal. These things do work. So you have to celebrate your effort, even if the outcome wasn't perfect. The other thing, by writing down what you learn from a mistake, you learn to analyze it without judgment. Because when a mistake happens, you know, I'm sure many people were like me. I used to beat myself up. So instead of beating myself up now, I ask what went wrong, why did it happen, and what can I do differently next time? So think of your mistakes as data. The more you analyze, the better you'll perform in the future. And keep moving forward. Mistakes can feel so discouraging. And I know that firsthand. But they're only permanent if you stop trying. So you have to reframe your setbacks as detours, not dead ends. And I know that's easier said than done, but small steps. And the other thing is to focus on consistent action. Again, small steps, because small steps start to build momentum and you stop worrying about the mistakes. Progress is not perfection, it's the goal. And I often think about making mistakes that it's not one I'll make again. Didn't really say that right. I make a mistake and I learn from it, and then I think, well, I'll not be making that mistake again. So, common mistakes and what they teach you. And I gave a little bit of thought to this because, there are a lot of mistakes out there that people make. But probably the biggest thing that I did in the beginning was I compared myself to others. I would look at other successful entrepreneurs or influencers and see their polished posts and fast success, at least what I perceived as fast success. And I'd feel like I wasn't good enough. Why would I know all this just starting out? But, the mind does terrible things to us. And I was doing this all the time in the beginning. But at the end of the day, everyone has their own journey. And you may be comparing yourself to someone who's been in this space for 2 years already. So the only comparison that matters is between where you are now and where you were yesterday. Just focus on your own growth rather than trying to measure up to others. And the second mistake that came to mind was not engaging with your audience. And I see this quite a lot when I chat to people here in the group, because you post content regularly, but you don't engage with comments, messages, or reactions. You think, I don't know, I'm too busy, or they'll reach out if they want to talk. But many people won't reach out if they want to talk. They need you to break the ice. So building relationships is just as important as creating content. When you engage with your audience, you build trust and loyalty, which is crucial for growth. Starting conversations, ask questions, and respond to people who interact with you. And of course, the big thing here is you're training the algorithm to show your content to more people, which is the whole thing, the whole idea of what we're aiming to achieve. Now, the third mistake, and this was a mistake of mine as well, I was afraid to sell. I was scared to push my offers or ask for the sale, and I understand you feel like you're bothering people or being too salesy, so you don't promote your products or services as often as you should. And this was me. I would see those people buy from someone else, all because I was too scared to make my offer. And it was so frustrating. I hadn't really married up affiliate marketing and selling, so it took me a little while. The thing to remember is selling isn't about being pushy. It's about offering value and solving a problem for your audience. If you believe in your product, it's your duty to share it with the people who need it. So it's about showing up confidently and offering the solution, your solution. And the final one, because I was always a perfectionist and it was focusing on too much perfection. I would spend days or weeks perfecting. Well, I did spend days and weeks and months perfecting my website, which I never got finished and no one ever visited. But other people are doing this as well. So I was perfecting my website, my offer, my content, and I was waiting until everything was just right before taking action. The thing is, done is better than perfect. Waiting for perfection can cause you to miss out on opportunities. you know, and I've missed out on a lot of opportunities because all of these things were the mistakes I was making. So my only advice is start with what you have, take action and improve over time. You learn more from real world feedback than from endless planning. It really is that rinse and repeat. Take action, make mistakes, learn from them, and go again and again. I no longer think of mistakes as something to be avoided. In fact, the more I put myself out there, I'm growing into that person that can hit 5 figures every month. And that's my aim. And it's not failing. You're not failing. I'm not failing. We're learning. And I know it sounds so cliche, but remember, the only real mistake is never trying at all. Right, let me just see who I've got here. Um, Hi, Dimitri. Lovely to see you. Thank you for watching. And Danette, thank you for watching. Lovely to have you here. Let me see. I remember blasting my email list with promotional messages. It made the occasional sale, but I really moved forward when I focused on the individual and interacted with them as a human and not just a source of money. Absolutely. When you're working to solve someone's problem and to help them, I mean, it's the most wonderful feeling in the world, to be able to help people. And ultimately, there is payback for that. And that's when you start seeing money come in. And it's not that it's going to happen immediately. I mean, it's taken me 2 years to get to where I am today, but I know that I'm more focused now. I don't worry about the mistakes. Um, I certainly don't give mistakes a second thought, but I do focus on helping people first. Now, let me just ask if anybody's got any questions, if I just hang on here for a minute. Okay, no questions. Well, thank you for joining me, and I hope you did find this valuable. If you did, drop a hashtag value below for me. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.